Hi, welcome to the webinar, How to Use the Assessment Made Easy Toolkit. My name is Mary Zeiss. I'm a chemical engineer and a member of the SWE Outreach Committee. By the end of today's webinar, you will be able to define objectives for your outreach event, construct surveys for students, adult guests, and volunteers, and analyze and summarize your survey results, including creating an infographic. Why do we do surveys at the end of outreach events? There are many reasons. Here are just a few. We do surveys to see how we did. Did we meet objectives? What excited the students? What worked and what didn't work? If you are running an event with parents and educators, you want to measure what they learned about engineering. Another reason to do a survey is to provide quantitative data for next year's organizers. This is especially important in collegiate sections where a different student may be running the program next year. You also want to provide quantitative data for your sponsors to show them the impact you made with their help. And don't forget your volunteers. You can do a survey with volunteers to see if they found value with volunteering with you. They also are your eyes and ears throughout your event and can give you valuable information on ways to improve the event. The Assessment Made Easy Toolkit is a step-by-step approach to creating and summarizing outreach event surveys. We will cover all three steps in this webinar. All the information presented in this webinar is available in the Assessment Made Easy Toolkit on the SWE.org website. Here's how to find it. Click on the K-12 Outreach tab. Then click on the SWE Members tab. Page down to find the Assessment Made Easy Toolkit. When you click Open the Toolkit, you will find an overview and links to several documents. If this is your first time using this tool, click on the 0 document, Outreach Assessment Made Easy. Read me first. This will give you a good overview of the three-step process and what you should do before and after your event. Now I'll explain the 3 steps. Step 1 is define the objectives. If you are running an event for students, open up document 1A, Outreach Objectives for Students. If your event includes parents and educators, open up document 1B, Outreach Objectives for Parents and Educators. In each document, you will find a list of possible outreach objectives. So, for an event with students, here are objectives you can consider. For example, if you were running an event for younger students, you might have an objective of developing their understanding of what engineers do, or of helping students draw connections between their interests, passions, and engineering. If you were running an event for high school students, you might have an objective of enabling students to meet and network with engineering role models, or of enabling students to identify what the next steps to becoming an engineer are. There are many possible objectives. We recommend that you select 3 to 5 key objectives for your event. If you are running a Parents and Educators program, abbreviated as PEP, here are objectives you can consider. For example, you may have an objective of developing PEP's understanding of what engineers do. Or your objective may be to enable PEP to know where to find resources around careers in engineering. Again, there are many possible objectives. We recommend that you select 3 to 5 key objectives for your event. Once you select your objectives, it's time to move on to step 2, construct the surveys. In the toolkit on the website, you can find core surveys that you can customize for students, adults, and volunteers. Here's an overview of the types of questions you'll find in the surveys. All of these questions are in the core surveys. First, there's an overall question. We recommend asking, what grade would you give today's event using an A through F scale? This grading scale is something that most students are familiar with and can relate to. The next type of question is the open-ended questions, likes and dislikes. What did you like most about the event today? If you were in charge, how would you change this event? This allows the students and parents to give you top-of-mind input on the best parts of your event and what needs to be changed for next time. The third type of question is a satisfaction question. Would you recommend that other kids participate in events like this? We call this the recommend to friend question. This question goes beyond whether they liked your event. It measures whether they think others would like your event too. The fourth type of question is specific questions based on your objectives. For example, if your objective was to develop students' understanding of what engineers do, you could ask these two questions. Before the event, I knew what an engineer did. After the event, I know what an engineer does. The scale used for this type of question is a 5-point scale that goes from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Here's another example of a specific question based on your objectives. If your objective is to build students' self-confidence skills as they relate to engineering, you could ask the question, my confidence in building and designing things improved, stayed the same, or got worse. That's the scale they'd use to score you. Here are a couple of examples for Parents and Educators program. If your objective is to develop PEP's understanding of why engineering is a good career choice, you could ask the question, this event helped me understand why engineering is a good career choice. If your objective is to enable PEP to know where to find resources around careers in engineering, you could ask the question, this event helped me learn where to find resources for my child. The Assessment Made Easy Toolkit has a list of questions you can ask based on each of the outreach objectives so that you can customize your survey based on your objectives. Here's what a survey might look like. You'll find core surveys like this in the toolkit where all you have to do is delete the questions that are not needed based on your specific objectives. There is a last type of question that I wanted to mention. That is the demographics question. You ask demographic questions so that you can analyze your survey data based on subgroups versus just looking at the aggregate data. So, for example, what demographic questions might you ask students? You might ask for age, the grade they are in, whether they are a boy or girl for events that have both boys and girls attending, and race ethnicity. What demographic questions might you ask parents and educators? You might ask whether they are the mom, the dad, a teacher, a troop leader, or other. You should ask whether or not they are an engineer. Some of the specific questions ask things like, this event helped me understand what engineers do. If you are an engineer, you are likely to answer disagree to that question since you already know what engineers do because you are an engineer. So you will want to be able to break out your data to look at engineers versus non-engineers. You might also want to ask for race ethnicity. As you choose which demographic questions to ask, consider any breakout your sponsor might be interested in. For example, if you are doing an event with the Girl Scouts, but any girl could attend, you might want to ask whether this event made you more likely to become a Girl Scout, or whether you already are a Girl Scout. Here's another example. If you are doing an event sponsored by a big company, let's say Westinghouse, you might want to ask whether or not their parents work for Westinghouse so that you can report back to your sponsor how many of their employees' children came to the event. So that's step 2, construct the survey. There are 5 types of questions in the survey, and they are all in the core surveys in the toolkit, ready for you to modify and customize. The one survey I haven't talked about yet is the activity meter. This is a very brief survey that you can run in the middle of your event immediately after doing a hands-on activity. Think of it like a comment card. You can put the name of the hands-on activity in the center of the card, like Dance Pad Mania. Then the students can rate how creative the activity was and whether or not they saw a connection between the activity and what engineers do, and also whether or not they had fun. Using activity meters is strongly recommended when you run a hands-on activity for the first time. For an example, I ran an activity called Protective Pill. This is an activity where you coat a pill, really a Skittle, to see if you can protect it from stomach acid, really 7-Up soda. Because I was short on time, I decided to give the students possible formulas to make to see which one would work. Because I gave them formulas to try, the activity meter showed a very low score on creativity. The next time I do the Protective Pill activity, I'll allow more time and let them come up with their own formulas. I wouldn't have known to make that change if it wasn't for using the activity meter. You can find the activity meter in the toolkit. You can also find a volunteer survey that you can customize for your event. The last step, step 3 of this approach, is summarize your survey results. Here are some tips. Before you enter the data, number the completed surveys from 1 to the number of participants you had. You can just mark a number in the upper corner. This way, if you get interrupted when you are entering the data, or if you accidentally drop the surveys, you'll know which surveys you've entered and which ones you haven't. You can also easily go back to look at a particular survey if you have questions while analyzing your data. The next tip is to read the open-ended questions to see what was liked and what needs improving. I confess that I typically do this immediately after the students have left the room while my volunteers are still cleaning up. I'm very curious about what worked and what didn't work. The third tip is to use 2 people to enter the data from each participant into an Excel spreadsheet. It goes faster with one person reading the data and the other person typing it into the spreadsheet. Finally, you should calculate averages to analyze your results. Here are some ways you can report your data. For the overall question, report the percent that gave you an A or the percent that gave you an A or a B. For example, at the 2014 Invent It Build It event, 62% of the girls gave us an A. 94% of the girls gave us an A or a B. For the Recommend to Others question, report the percent that said yes, they would recommend it to others. For example, at 2014 Invent It Build It, 78% of the girls said yes, they would recommend it to others. For the Agree-Disagree questions, you can report the total percent that said agree or strongly agree. Or you can assign points with 5 points for strongly agree all the way down to 1 point for strongly disagree, and then report the average. Here are bar charts from the 2013 Invent It Build It. On the left-hand side is the question about interest in engineering. The blue bar is the question, before the event, I was interested in becoming an engineer. The red bar is the question, after the event, I am interested in becoming an engineer. You can see that interest in engineering went from 36% to 58%. The chart on the right is knowledge of engineering. I know what an engineer does. You can see that the knowledge of engineering increased from 67% to 90% as a result of the event. Here's an example of the confidence and ability questions. You should report the percent that said their confidence or ability improved. So in this example, 67% of the girls said their ability to use the design process improved, and 66% said their confidence in building and designing things improved. In reporting your data, use tables or graphs. Write an executive summary for your section records. This is particularly important in collegiate sections where it will likely be a different student organizing the event next year. Share the summary with everyone who helped with the event, including all of your volunteers and your sponsors. They'll be happy to see the results of their efforts. The data can also be used in award applications. Here's an example of a table of results for a Collegiate-run Parents and Educators event. They got great results overall. In fact, they won a SWE Outreach Award for this event. I highlighted two of the data points in yellow that don't look quite so good. The question, "This event taught me some activities I can do with my child," only received 49% saying they agreed. That's because this was not an objective of this particular event. They did not have a segment during the event that specifically did this, so they should not have asked this question in the survey. That's the same with the other low-scoring question. I had a chance to meet professional engineers today. This was a student-run event with just one professional engineer in attendance. So with the question saying they had a chance to meet engineers, plural, only 64% could agree. Again, they shouldn't have included this question in the survey since that was not a part of their objective for this event. Here's another way you could present your data in an information graphic. An infographic is a graphic visual representation of information, data, or knowledge intended to present complex information quickly and clearly. Here's an example of an infographic from the 2013 Invent It, Build It event. Here's an example of an infographic I created for an Explore Engineering camp that I run each year. Here are some tips for constructing an infographic. First, focus on the positive data. What 5 to 7 pieces of data are you most proud of? That's the data you should use. Second, decide on a way to visually show the data. Will you use a pie chart, a bar chart, balloons, or thought bubbles? Third, pick a color scheme. You can see on Invent It, Build It, they use the colors of Invent It, Build It, the pinks, the soft oranges, the turquoise, the lime greens. For my Explore Engineering camp, I chose the colors of the Shaler North Hills Library, the navy blue and white, because that's their colors. Fourth, give a brief explanation of the event. Then add in pictures of the event, but make sure you have photo clearances if you show the faces. And finally, make sure you thank your sponsor. How can you use an infographic? Here are some tips. Use it to celebrate your results or market your event. Share it in a newsletter. Post it on Facebook or your website. Share it in a thank you letter to your sponsor. Use it in advertising for next year's event. Use it with potential sponsors to ask for funding. Use it with potential partners like school districts to show the type of work that you do. And use it to get media or press. So in conclusion, you've learned how to define objectives for your outreach event, construct surveys, and analyze and summarize your results. Remember that all the information presented today in this webinar is available in the Assessment Made Easy Toolkit on the SWE.org website. If you have questions, you can contact us. Thank you for the outreach that you do.